how iconic is, you know me, and basketball metaphors matter. This Shoshone powwow is in the D Event Center. You cannot make it up. What is going on in the Ukraine is, I don't think people have a clue what a massacre it is. What a massacre's happened to the ecology here in the last decade. You know, this is Shoshone land. This is not Ute. This is Shoshone land. But even the natives have been here for at least 18,000 years. Right here. This is sacred hallowed ground. I grew up right here. I grew up right here. I mean right here. My uncle started the Ogden Clinic. Right there. The famous heart surgeon. You know, the first whitey buried in the cemetery in this area. His last name's Blanche. Killed by Little Soldier. And he was his friend. By the way, this Little Soldier buried in the Ogden Cemetery? I don't think so. He's buried in the West Weaver Cemetery next to my father. You take my elder, we take yours, when they killed Chief Cherokee. But this is sacred hallowed ground, the basketball matter. What's going on in Ukraine? I don't think anybody has a clue. Well, they have a clue there. This is one of the bloodiest massacres in world history, which has happened. Putin's March massacre. So I grew up here, and this is important because people around the country, this was the feds, sure he wasn't Utah, called it the federal name for the massacre on the Bear River, which was Franklin, Idaho Governor Cox. We're here at the massacre site because of this Utah. Governor Cox, why are you airing your ignorance in public? No, it wasn't. This was Washington territory was there. Here, now stay with me. They called it the Battle of Bear River. Nobody here called it that. Nobody. Everybody that grew up in Ogden, Utah, we all were taught well. We all knew it was a massacre. And it was a massacre. Men, women, and children sleep just like Putin's massacre. The invaders that have come to this land for all these years. Look, even before there were natives, they got here by boat from Asia. Farmer K. Brody. How many thousands of years ago? They lived in harmony with animals somewhat, but this land belongs to the animals. What have we done? What have we done? What have we done? Nobody grew up in Ogden, Utah that did not understand. We called Ogden blood. The fur trade was still going on. Bloom's was still there when I was a kid. We all knew here that this was all the war profiteers. The merger of GE and Utah Construction in 1970, the biggest corporate merger in history. We all knew in Ogden, Utah, the Brownies were war profiteers. The Wattis were war profiteers in Europe. Everybody in this town was taught it. My second grade teacher, my first grade teacher, Olene Walker, the first governor of Utah's mother. We were all taught. So I tell my friends, where'd you learn all this activism? I said, sit next to you in that Leslie Hodson, Frank Lloyd Wright masterpiece called West Weaver Elementary. They tore down. Would you forget? We were all taught the real history. Native American. I hate that word, Native American. I don't like, I'm not surely not an American. America Vespucci. We were all taught it very well here. This is one of the most progressive school districts in the world in the 1960s. We taught, our school education system was so good. My teacher, she says, Kevin, you're not autistic. You're gifted. And I'll never forget what she told me. She says, Kevin, I talked to your grandma about this. You have this incredible mind. You are not autistic. You have the observational mind. She said, I've always had a guardian angel with me right here. Little native. She's always been with me. I've always followed her. She was with me in the bone marrow transplant 10 years ago. Right here. This was very sacred, hallowed ground when they built this. Very controversial when they built the Purple Palace basketball. Now you think about it. Basketball metaphor. She says, Kevin, you love basketball. You love the birds. Your grandma told me you're out there and thing. And yeah, I love the animals. I'm out there on this great marsh. I mean, I got to live on the great wetland, the Great Salt Lake I grew up on. She says, you like basketball, huh? I says, yeah, I love basketball. Let me show you. She got me out a book. The natives played basketball. What? Yeah, they played basketball right here for at least 13,000 years. We know this factually. They played basketball. The metaphor. St. Peter versus St. Petersburg. PUTINGRAD. You know, St. Petersburg was changed to Petrograd. It was changed to Leningrad, Stalingrad. He's trying to change it to PUTINGRAD. St. Peter? I used to go to St. Peter's games right there. The campus of St. Peter, that little teeny. This is the greatest upset in Americana sports history. What's going on with those St. Peter? You know about St. Peter? You know, those are. He's from Puerto Rico. Those two, Marquette, Al McGuire, St. John's, point guard. Those are his two twin sons. You know about Marquette? French. I mean, oh my God, we call this Wasatch, right? The fur raper traders were in here from France. Jim Bridger, Jedediah Smith, in here. Peter Skin Ogden never set foot here. The first so-called fur trader was Miles Goodyear. Why do we call it Ogden? Should be called Bridger, right? What's the Shoshone name? They call this Shadow Valley. Used to be beautiful here. Think about the metaphor. Basketball metaphors matter. Damian Lillard ahead by 23 points. Kevin Blanch on the call. And loses. The Wattis curse. Anthony Johnson, 36 points and a half. It's one of the all-time records in the history of college basketball. Never missed a free throw field goal in the second half. He was interviewed later. He never did it before, he never did it after. I had an out-of-body experience. So, I've spoken side of the legislature for 10 years. You know, I've been screaming about this water. The lake was at perfect levels in 20, but they're just going to keep throwing money. I says, we only have one chance. So, I'll be doing a rain dance today. It's 80 degrees, shattering records. Talk about March Madness. Quit calling it Putin's war. It's Putin's massacre of native. Never forget this. I was born here. I'm native. Did my great-great-great-great-grandparents invade this land? Yeah. But even natives came here 13,000 years by boats. The only really true native creatures in this land are the animals. This is their land, and look what we've done to them. It becomes as natural as unleashing cattle. The house used to sit right there. They were Portuguese organic farmers here. Went back multiple generations. This ground was so hallowed. You should have seen it when I was a kid. These houses were here. It was very sacred and hallowed. The natives called it Shadow Valley. I'm native. I was born right there on 24th in Washington. Damian Lillard has a twin boy and girl. No, I'm a twin boy and girl. I was born here. I was born here. Where natives, when a land invades you, you don't fight back. The real homeland security. Tupac in South America. Sitting Bull. Little soldier. Little soldier's buried next to my father. My great-great-great-grandfather, the first whitey buried in the Weber County Cemetery, he put an arrow through his heart. He was friends with him when Stewart killed Chief Cherokee. You take all out of there, we take yours. My grandma said they showed up at the West Weber Cemetery in full burial headdress and gave him a full freaking native ceremony. The whole 9 yards. When I go, I hope I go that way. Think about it. I want you to think about the sports basketball metaphor. They played basketball. Kobe Bryant, one of the trainers here was one of Kobe Bryant's. Kevin Blanch. Kobe Bryant has a mind like yours. The elasticity of Kobe Bryant was a genius. He says, Kobe Bryant, isn't it amazing that sport will tell the tale of culture before it happens, especially basketball? Damian Lillard's alumni tournament was on 8/24. Kobe changed his number from 8 to 20. Business decision. Lillard never won nothing. The Wattis curse. I'll be doing a rain dance today, and never forget this. We're all natives that were born on this land. We didn't do this. Putin invades his ancestral ground. He says it. Where's he going to go? Alaska next? This grandiose St. Peter becomes. I almost went to work at St. Francis. You know, I used to be an LIU guy. I've been in all those gyms. Al McGuire, that point guard in the 1977. One of the greatest upsets in history. You know that's his two grandsons? Excuse me, his two twin sons? It's the greatest upset in sport history in this country. They're in the final 8. What? I watched Jimmy Valvano cut down the nets when they upset freaking the #1 team in the Ralph Sampson. That was a bunch of nobodies. They won the national championship. 83. 86 when those Louisville Cardinals. Purvis Ellison. I watched them win in there. I watched Jason Kidd's last game in there go down. I watched Weber State lose so many heartbreaking games. Lose to Lamar and Billy Tubbs when they were had a home game, a 6th seed. I've watched so many freaking heartbreaking, Wattis Curse freaking nightmares. I wonder why. Wat Massaca, the first player called in the history of the NBA. Oh yeah, all roads lead to Ogden. The Shoshone didn't even call themselves. They would call themselves Shoshone. We were all taught very well in this Ogden, Utah in the 1960s. The bluest district in America back when blue was about the environment. Now blue's the same as red. James Carville pink. It stinks. So stop calling it Putin's war. It's a massacre. It's a massacre. Putin's massacre. Just like the Bear River. We were never in Utah called it the Bear River Battle. That was the feds. Connors came from Fort Ord. He shot Liam Hunsaker, his native son. I'm Abe Hunsaker, the 4th grandson. You know, my historic roots here, I've always known where I came from. My guardian angel has always been with me. This land has always been about blood and mass murder and invaders. I didn't do it. I'm native. Putin did it. This, what's going on in Ukraine, invading those people that were born and raised there. And he comes in here and just massacres them. Stop calling it Putin's war. It's Putin's massacre in St. Peter. St. Peter, how about what? Marquette? He's from Francis, huh? Who's the savages? St. John, Al McGuire, and his point guard. You cannot make it up. Basketball metaphors matter. Abner Doubleday did not invent baseball, and he sure didn't invent basketball with a peach basket. He was from Canada anyway. You know, I was at the Steve Nash game when he was a 15 seed that upset freaking Stottlemyre. I was at that game, that freshman team. Let's see, 2-time MVPs. You ever been on the res and watch these basketball games? Oh, I go to the games. You want to see real basketball? You go to the reservation tournaments, especially in Wyoming, Idaho. Oh, you're talking the best basketball in the world. It'll blow your mind. How can they never play college basketball? That's a very good question. How come none of them are in the NBA? Well, how come Wat Massaca and Native Ogden's banner's not flying up there? We've got Kathy up there. She's Native Ogden. The real March Madness 2022. The Bear River Massacre. 512 men, women, and children at night. The United States government. The bounty house was still here. We all learned it in Ogden, Utah. We had the best school district. I was all taught that. What did you all forget and get hypnotized? We're all natives here. Well, most of us. My ancestors invaded. I didn't. We're all natives. We were born here. Was it our fault we were born here? No. It happened. But when you defend, little soldier, he defended here. You know, what Putin's done over there, I think anybody supported him, Foxconn News, all these people, it's treason. Obama, I mean, talk about it. It's not a war. Stop calling it Putin's war. Go St. Francis, Peacocks. Al McGuire was my favorite. My dad was a famous coach here. He reminded me of Al McGuire. Call it what it is. It's a massacre. Oh, here comes some of the Panty Painter media. What are they reporting on? Not this. Guaranteed they won't come in here to this. Are we doing a rain dance? First they come for the natives, I won't stop there. Then they come for the buffalo, I won't stop there. Why would they stop at the Pacific Ocean? Talk about March Madness. This is one of the bloodiest massacres in world history. what Putin has done in that part of the world. You know how many dead people there are there? Maybe they are going to come to a peace. Operation Foxconn News. Huh, interesting. Oh, it was. I'm a native. This massacre is the most disgusting thing. One of the greatest massacres. The Bear River Massacre. Putin's March Madness. Natives.